Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and just stick around. Also, if you need any help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, small group coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. So if you're interested in any of these services, there is a link below in the description box. Click on it and it's going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's get to today's video. So I thought today's video could be a good refresher for something that several of you have asked, and that is how the law works and how to have faith in the law, knowing that what we're manifesting is actually promised to us, it's actually going to happen, we're actually going to see it and experience it in the 3D world, and why we can have faith in that, why we can trust that. So the reason why we can trust our manifestation to come to pass is because of how the law actually works, how the universe actually works, and how the fourth dimension, the 4D, which is a higher dimension, a bigger dimension, to the material world that we live in, the 3D world, is structured, and what this all means for all of us living here day to day in the 3D world, in the material world, in the world of the senses, and what it means when we're manifesting a new reality, a different reality. So let's explore that. So the way this works is that we have the 3D world, the three-dimensional world, the world that is measured in width, length, and height, the world of the senses, that we all see and experience right now. However, there is also a bigger dimension called the fourth dimension, the 4D. Some people also call it the quantum field. Some people call it the field of infinite potential. Some people call it the field of infinite possibilities. They all mean the same thing. They all refer to the same thing. But essentially, what the 4D is the 3D plus time. And the way spiritual teachers describe the 4D, and by the way, science is coming closer and closer to actually proving all this with their theories, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, for all of you who are familiar with that. So the ways the spiritual teachers describe the 4D is that it is an infinite field of infinite potential, infinite possibilities where every reality exists. Every experience, everything that you can imagine, everything that you can think about already exists in the 4D, in the quantum field. And what this means for us in the 3D world, manifesting a different story, a different outcome, a different reality, is that we can actually draw whatever reality we choose, whatever reality we can imagine from that bigger field, the quantum field, the 4D, and with our focus, with our imagination, with our focused assumptions, our focused attention, eventually, over time, bring it to our 3D reality. So because everything already exists, everything is already a possibility, everything is already there in the 4D right now, everything is already created, we can just choose it, we can select it, and with our focused attention, we can bring it over to the 3D. This is the essence of how the law works. It's actually, it might sound quite wild, it might sound a bit out there, but it's actually quite simple. Also, Neville himself taught about the fourth dimension, about the multiple realities, about the multiple possibilities coexisting in the fourth dimension, and actually have decided to read a little bit from one of his books. I've done that before. I do think it's worth reading straight from the source because he actually makes some very good points, and it's very much worth hearing it straight from the source. So I'm going to read from Neville's book, Out of This World, and the excerpt I'm going to read is from the first chapter of this book. It's called Thinking Fourth Dimensionally. And the paragraphs I'm going to read illustrate, in my opinion, the teaching of the fourth dimension in relation to the three-dimensional world very, very well. I think Neville makes some very important points here that I think are very worth hearing and digesting and taking into account. Okay? So I'm going to read a few paragraphs from the book. He says, "The more dimensions an object has, the more substantial and real it becomes. A straight line, which lies entirely in one dimension, acquires shape, mass, and substance by the addition of dimensions. What new quality would time, the fourth dimension, give, which would make it just as vastly superior to solids as solids are to surfaces and surfaces are to lines? Time is a medium for changes in experience because all changes take time. The new quality is changeability. Observe that if we bisect a solid, its cross-section will be a surface. By bisecting a surface, we obtain a line. And by bisecting a line, we get a point. This means that a point is but a cross-section of a line, which is in turn but a cross-section of a surface, which is in turn but a cross-section of a solid, which is in turn, if carried to its logical conclusion, but a cross-section of a fourth-dimensional object. We cannot avoid the inference that all three-dimensional objects are but cross-sections of four-dimensional bodies, which means when I meet you, listen to this, when I meet you, I meet a cross-section of the four-dimensional you, the four-dimension self that is not seen. To see the four-dimensional self, I must see every cross-section or moment of your life from birth to death and see them all as coexisting. My focus should take in the entire array of sensory impressions which you have experienced on Earth, plus those you might experience. I should see them not in the order in which they were experienced by you, but as a present whole. Because change is the characteristic of the fourth dimension, I should see them in a state of flux as a living, animated whole. If we have all this clearly fixed in our minds, what does it mean to us in this three-dimensional world? It means that if we can move along time's length, we can see the future and alter it as we so desire. This world, which we think so solidly real, is a shadow out of which and beyond which we may at any time pass. It is an abstraction from a more fundamental and dimensionally larger world. A more fundamental world abstracted from a still more fundamental and dimensionally larger world, and so on to infinity. So what Neville is saying here in this very beautiful illustration, very beautiful teaching about the fourth dimension, the 4D, and how it relates to us in the 3D and our manifestations in the 3D, is that every possibility exists right now in the fourth dimension as a living whole, okay? And it's in the now moment. And what we can do if we want to change our reality, if we want to change our story, if we want to experience something different, is pick and choose from those existing realities, those infinite existing realities, the reality that we want, put our focused attention on it, and then by focusing on that reality, we get to experience it eventually, sooner or later, in the 3D world. Because as Neville said, the 4D is infinite, it has infinite possibilities, infinite potentials. We are picking and choosing the reality that we want. We are bringing it forth to the 3D in order to experience it and to live it with our senses. And because the 4D is a dimensionally larger world where everything possible exists, everything that we can imagine, everything that we can think about already exists in the 4D, it means that it already exists in the 3D as well. We just can't see it. If the 3D is only a small part of the much bigger, much larger fourth dimensional world, it goes without saying that this possibility already exists in the 3D as well. The 3D is already a part of the 4D. And that is why we can trust our manifestation. We can trust that if we focus our attention, if we focus our energy, if we focus our state and our assumption on our desired reality, on our desired story, it's already ours. That's why we say that our desires are a promise, because they are, because they already exist, and we are the operant power, we have the power is in our hands to actually bring it forth into the 3D. So to borrow Neville's term, thinking fourth dimensionally, I would like to encourage all of you to start thinking fourth dimensionally, and that means trusting your manifestation, trusting that it already exists, that it's already yours, that you can have it. It's absolutely possible and likely for you to have it as long as you focus your attention and your dominant energies and dominant states on it. and not pay attention in the 3D, not pay attention to what the 3D might be showing, because what you're seeing right now, as you just learned, is just a very, very, very small part of an infinitely larger world that is the 4D. And the 3D is just a very, very small part of that much larger world that is the 4th dimension. And since your imagination is actually directly linked to the 4th dimension, that means that by focusing your imagination on that part of the 4th dimension that you want to experience here in the 3D, you can actually bring the future to the present, to the now, and get to experience your new reality, your desire, your new story. You get to experience it here in the 3D world, in the world of the senses, in the material world, in the much smaller world that is just a very, very small part of the 4th dimension. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.